Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here, coming at you with another raw narrative. This is a part 2, so be sure to go back and watch the first part if you haven't had a chance to yet. This is a part 2 to Lore Lads and Steve Fisher. Let's watch.
Don't get me back to good bullshit.
Not a problem. I can hear. So I was on the Riley Strain case, and listen, I had no intention of getting involved in this case either because my former PI partner, for lack of a better word, we didn't have an agency there, but we did all our cases together. She's based in Nashville. Mm-hmm. She was actually on the case. She was retained by Seth.
Steve Fisher is referring to Chloe PI.
And she is an amazing investigator, and there's absolutely no reason for me to be involved. And one, I mean, she went to brought me in. She didn't need my help, and two, it'd be weird, like it just wasn't an option. I wasn't going, I hadn't talked to Chris or anything.
It's absolutely weird in my opinion. It's weird in everyone else's opinion who's been following the case, because at that time, Seth was supposed to have been working with Chris and Katie, but Chris and Katie were not working with Seth. They only said they were. And then Seth hires Chloe PI, who has ties to SF Investigates. To my knowledge, Heather and Chloe were working pro bono.
What I was doing, just as a civilian, is I was putting on my Twitter some based off search and rescue, theory and analysis and planning, areas that I thought were search grids that were smart to search for Sebastian, based on some decision point analysis. One time when I had come out on one of the trips to Nashville, because I was going back and forth, I went out to Hendersonville at like 5:30 in the morning just to see the area. I just wanted to see it, and I realized how different it was from what I had really imagined, and how kind of that drone searching really wasn't a possibility, in those conditions, because it's just so thick and everything out there, and it kind of changed things. And through that, I got in touch with Chris at one point, and Chris and I talked several times. He was very, rightfully so. He didn't. I don't think he knows completely. He didn't know who to trust and whatnot. And we talked here and there. And then, I met with him on one of my other trips out there. We met for. He had me in his house. He said, "Just come to the house and let's sit down and talk." And that's kind of how it started. He didn't hire me there, but we started talking more, and then I came into this case. I wish I knew the exact date. It's only been 3 months, 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
This case was
by chance, but you weren't looking to get involved in this case.
Yes, right.
But so then you did, and you said you had some conversations with Chris Proudfoot, and then that you ended up going and sitting down with him. At what point, though, did this become an official working relationship? And what I mean by that is, I guess there would be two stages to that. There's, you're actually actively communicating with him and saying, "Hey, I'm helping you out," versus, he's paying you or somebody is paying you. Like, right. When did that switch happen?
Let me just pull up the retainer agreement so I can tell you exactly.
Yeah, I guess the question would be, when were you officially hired?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it, so I can give you the exact answer. I'm trying to find the retainer agreement. It's I don't know. It'll take me 1 second here. Sebastian. It was. Oh, here we go. It's 11/14 of 24.
Okay, so it was November of last year.
Yeah,
gotcha. So that's the official date.
Something like that.
So I'm glad you brought up the shoe thing, because one of the issues with the case that I kind of noticed early on was that the dog, to my understanding, scent tracker dogs specifically, I don't think there were any cadaver dogs brought into the house. And then obviously cadaver dogs and scent tracker dogs aren't always the same thing.
Right.
But my understanding is that there were never any scent tracking dogs that were able to identify a path leading from the house away.
So
I know there was one dog, Max, but he was in
Right.
the ground disturbance dog, right?
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah. There's a couple conflicting stories about that. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know 100% what the real one is. I'll tell you as I understand it. So originally I heard it like everybody else heard it, that Max, because from the dispatch audio, Max's handler, he's on scene, and then all of a sudden Max is on set and Max is in the retention pond, right? So, and then we'd heard that, and I do know that there were a few dogs, and now these were scent specific dogs. So Max is not scent specific. Max is he's an air scent dog. So he'll pick up anybody, he's just looking for the strongest scent. Now, scent specific, meaning they have taken a scent article from Sebastian. So a trained handler will go in there with a paper bag and collect a scent article, usually a pillowcase or underwear or socks or
Did he just say underwear?
something, and then they'll scent the dog, and then the dog will, be nose down and as opposed to up in the air like an air scent, and we'll try and trail that. And so there was dogs that went out the front door to the left along the fence line. So it would be along their fence line, but there's a house over there, and then back up the fence line, kind of like it was coming back, and then cuts across the neighbor's yard where there's no fence. So from that point, now that's what that's what was visualized of the canines doing. Okay, so you can assume that's what they're doing. Now from there, once they're out of eyesight, we don't know, but we thought that they went up Kellen and also tracked to the retention pond. However, in the last month, things have changed as far as that goes, because I've got all the surveillance footage. I can see
2,000 years later.
Why doesn't Steve just give us the most up-to-date information?
20 for full. These are not like detection cameras. These were 24-hour rolling cameras, so I can see everything goes on. Now Max is driven up in an SUV to the construction site, and then he gets out. He actually goes to one of the neighbors' yards for a second, and then they're just kind of like working around. He does end up on the other end over the retention pond. Then about 2 p.m., the first bloodhound, which is, I'm going to say, the first search and rescue dog that I see anyways, comes up. Now, I thought the search and rescue dog came up Kellen and, then right into the construction area, but that's not what happened.
No one is interested in hearing about what you thought. Tell us what you saw on this so-called surveillance.
The bloodhound actually came up, was already from down below, was already inside the new development and was walking along the fence line that separates the two, and walked all the way up to the top, essentially parallel with Kellen, but it was clear it was not on he was not on a set. He does deviate. There's one area where he deviates hard left 90 degrees and goes down a hill. I'd like to know more about that.
I'm going to need to see some receipts on that. Receipts or it didn't happen, Steve.
But then the handler, then they leave, and then they're at the top, and then you don't see them again. So they didn't go over to the retention pond. And I also on the Sartopo maps can see the tracking lines of the canines, and none of them confirm each other. They crisscross lines and stuff. So I don't have much faith left in the that there was any true canine. I think Max picked up a scent. I just don't think it was Sebastian's.
Gotcha. So you would agree then that there's no confirmed scent trail from the house to anywhere else?
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Steve Fisher just confirmed that there was no scent trail from Sebastian's house. So what does that tell us, folks? That tells us that Sebastian never left his house. The way I see it, he's trying to debunk the 3 a.m. flashlights.
So,
and I will, people that are, because I know there's a lot of confusion, or I'll talk about the canines. All the canines came from a separate area. None of them tracked the same thing. You could tell they were all looking for. So it was very disappointing, to be honest with you, because it was like, oh, they don't have anything.
Right. So I guess the next logical question there would be: you've seen these camera angles. You said you had hundreds of hours of this surveillance footage.
Over
100 hours. But did any of these cameras show the exits from the Proudfoot home?
No.
Oh, please. Of course it did. That was an easy one.
Oh, wait. Sorry, of that particular camera. I'm sorry. Yes. The bigger camera we're talking about, the K9.
No, I'm talking about just in general, like any of the angles.
So there's a camera across the street, and there's also a camera right behind them.
Right.
So I do have now the one across the street. Those people didn't know how to export their footage, and so I sat down. So what they did is they didn't know how to export all the footage. So they went through and they like took out clips of it, and they also took some screen grabs of things they thought was important after going back and forth and or after scrubbing through all the footage. Because and I sat down with them for like 2 hours. What they said was that TBI their footage was set to overwrite after 10 days, and nobody had come and collected their footage. They're right across the street. They're right across the street. I mean, by far away, the most important camera there is by far. And they had like come and seen a couple things, but they had not taken the footage. And so they went to the command center. The husband did, and he said, "Listen, take this footage. Like it's going to overwrite tonight." You know. Yeah. So they finally did take it.
Here, Steve Fisher alleges that law enforcement, the TBI, did not take the neighbor's camera footage until 10 days later. He said the neighbors had to go to the command center and ask the TBI to come take the footage before their cameras erased it.
But they also they don't have the raw footage back. So they gave me what they have, and it's a lot, and it has all the because there's, even though it's continuous rolling, it does also pick up, have detections like with the tracking and stuff like that. So anytime a car comes in up and down that road, it picks it up. Anytime their lights at the Providence turn on, if they come, anybody comes in and out of the driveway at their place, whatever it may be, those are detected. And so I have that, and there's also a house behind.
Right. So just to clarify really quickly, so they were able to get you the still images and the clips.
But the TBI has.
But the TBI was able to get the full footage.
TBI has the actual not the hard drive. It was like cloud based, but yeah, they have all the masters.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And can you see the front of the Proudfoot's property, like the front door?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So from what you've seen, is there any point at which anybody appears to enter or exit the home from the footage you've seen?
Well, yeah, I mean, keep in mind, it's footage from over a couple days, so yeah, definitely.
Well, I guess the night in question then.
Are you freaking serious right now, Steve?
That night, no. Well, they arrived home, and so I will say the one, like I said, they went through and they checked all their footage and they took out what they saw, and they captured what they saw.
The question was really simple, Steve. Did the neighbors who live directly across the street have any footage of anyone leaving Sebastian's home on the night in question?
But what they didn't get, and what they admit that they must have just missed, is when they heard that there was footage of Sebastian taking the trash out, the trash can out. That was news. They were surprised to hear that because they didn't see that. And so what the husband told me was, I was sitting with him at the dinner table. He said, he said, I didn't know if they were being real about that or not. And he's like, I went to the command center and I said, listen, I've given you all my footage and I'm just going to ask you one question. And he's like, but I really need to know this because this is my neighbor. And I just want to know for my own sanity, like, did you really see Sebastian on that footage or not? And they told him absolutely.
Now that's really funny, Steve, because it wasn't until the Chronicles of Olivia interview, which aired on March 16th, 2024, 20 days after Sebastian was reported missing, Katie changes her story and says that Sebastian also took out the trash because that was his chore, to take the trash to the end of the driveway. Let's watch.
We got up and, fun fact, I made breakfast that morning. We had a good time. We were laughing, we were joking. He talked to family on the phone during breakfast to brag. We went and picked up our niece. Yeah, I got a call and asked if I could go and pick her up, and I did. And so we went and did that. We went to BJ's. Had a good time there. He ate a colossal popcorn. Came home to put groceries away because we bought snacks because, he's 15 and snacks. We went to the bowling alley. And then from there we went to dinner. Came home. He took out the trash because that's his chore. He takes the can to the end of the driveway.
He took out the trash because that's his chore. He takes the can to the end of the driveway. He takes the can to the end of the driveway.
About 9 o'clock, told him to go to bed. And he's come out of his room where he was playing, and he said, "All right, good night, Mama. Good night, puppies. Love you." And went to bed.
And as we can see here, Katie adds this to her story, and it wasn't publicly known or talked about until the Chronicles of Olivia interview aired on March 16th, 2024. That was 20 days after Sebastian went missing. The mobile command center was gone when they scaled the search back. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Shame, shame, I know your name. Steve Fisher's a liar.
And so I believe them. I don't think they're and keep in mind, Seth and everybody has said that they agree. So
yeah, okay, that is so false.
But I have not seen that. Just to be clear, I've not seen him taking the trash can out. There was some I can see, which is important to me, and I'm not going to get into the exact. There's going to be some things I can't say. I'm just going to tell you up front, but can't give out all the details for the integrity of the investigation. But
he sounds just like Chris Proudfoot. SF, Chris is calling. He wants his lines back.
There's times when you see, the lights go off or on or and whatnot. So that's all detectable. It's a very clear shot of the house.
But so what I'm hearing though is that at the very least the TBI should have an angle on the entrances and exits of the home for the full 100%. The full night.
They do, and they have the back of the house too.
Got it. So that's incredibly interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like any question about somebody entering or exiting the home,
it
should be
the TBI knows.
Answered by that. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. No, they have all that for sure. Now, I will say too that just because they have the footage that would show the front door does not mean that with the lights off in the house that you would see the front door open. It is incredibly dark in that neighborhood.
Didn't he just say that there was a clear shot of the front and the back of the house?
It's not a night vision camera.
No. Well, it's set to auto. It was set to auto mode, so it wasn't detecting. So what it's set up for their front porch, okay, and they have lights like planter lights on their porch. I'm talking about the house across, it's shooting from. So it's lighting for that. It's not caring really about the Proudfoot's home, right? And so we tested this. The family there was nice enough to let us into their house and overtake their system and run tests and stuff. And we just had people walking out, and the FBI did this as well too, just so you guys know. But just walk out of the house and see if we could detect it on the monitor at all, and we couldn't. It's that dark in the neighborhood.
Got it. So I guess then to be 100% sure, it sounds like from what you're saying, and I wish. I mean, would you be able to release any of that footage, any of those tests? Just put people's minds at ease about it. Be like, no, really, you can't tell. Like, even if it's just a quick video of somebody walking out of the home.
Listen, I would have to ask, and I'll just be honest, because the way that the people have just trampled over the Proudfoots, they don't owe anybody any favors, and in this, and they don't care about like winning anybody's. At this point, they truly only, whether people leave or not, they just want Sebastian found. And so I don't think they're gonna give anybody any favors like that. I'll ask, but I wouldn't count on it, to be honest with you.
Whoa. Did this creep really just say that they were doing the public a favor, that the feet were doing the public a favor by sharing information about their son who is missing? Again, are you freaking kidding me, Steve? I could just hear Stepfoot now. I'd give you the information, but all you guys would do is bash us and twist it. Oh, bullshit. Do us a real favor and spare us your lies.
I mean, I would just put it this way, that, there's a lot of people out there, from what I can tell, the majority of people are looking at them as suspects. Something like that, at the very least, would put people's minds at ease that they're not hiding something here. That, you really, if you look at that footage, you really can't see anybody coming out of that house, whether somebody is or not. I think that would probably help a lot of people to maybe get past another reason that they're suspicious.
Yeah, and I get that, but I also see it from their end. But I will say, I know that I saw interview or two, I think, where with Seth's old PIs, where he had multiple PIs, and they said too that they were aware that the FBI had run these same tests, and in fact, the FBI test wasn't just for that camera, but it was to see if any of the cameras would detect him if he walked a certain route. And in fact, I know when some of the PIs like were watching on when that was happening. So, I mean, I'll ask, but I can't. There's got to be some faith in the fact that FBI TBI And I think they've probably sent this footage. I'm sure they've sent this footage to the FBI crime lab, which any agency is allowed to use for enhancement. And I think because it's an Amber Alert, if there was an image of him, I think they would release something. I could be wrong strategy wise, but I just don't think. I mean, well, let me back that up. From that camera, it's hard because I go back and forth. I don't think that he's caught on that camera at all, but I do.
Was Sebastian caught on camera or not? I guess you don't know.
In the last week, I do believe that they have something of him. Listen, I'll be honest with you. We have something from after midnight of a person we can't identify. I don't know if it's him. I'm not starting to remember, but so I think they might be in the same situation where there might be other cameras that we don't know about.
Can I ask, is this the so-called flashlights video, or is this something else?
This is something else.
Okay, so is it just an unidentified person walking past or through the property?
Yeah, it's a person but because they're wearing very dark clothing and because the light, it looks like, I don't know if you saw in the Riley Strain case, do you remember like under the bridge when there was people walking by, but it was so opaque, you could barely see the person. So it's like that, but it's clearly a person. There's no doubt about it, but there's no way you could identify who that person is. But based on the time and the place, it's like, there's only so many people it could be, really.
Yeah.
What time and what place did you see this person? I don't believe it.
Especially with where that neighborhood is, it's a development. Like there's no passing through that neighborhood to get somewhere else. If you're in that neighborhood, you're in that neighborhood to be there. Yeah. So it would have to be you would expect it to be somebody who lives there, especially if they're out walking late at night. So
well, the quick follow-up I have to that is, did you see any unusual or notable vehicles in any of the footage?
I do want to get to that in just a second. There's just one last thing I wanted to clarify with this video you're talking about, which I assume if it becomes relevant for the public to know, you would release it, right?
So not necessarily, because listen, I can bring that up and say, listen, there's things that there's maybe some hope or something, but that's something that is for investigators, law enforcement, private investigators on the case. The public's not entitled to that. There's no reason to give that, because what happens is
everybody finds out what a liar you are.
Look what happened look what happens whenever we release anything. They go to find out who these people are. They dox them. Look at the green herding person. I mean, geez, it puts that person's life in danger. So I can't do that.
It puts an unidentified person you can barely see in danger. Give me a break.
I can't do that. There's no way. I mean, there's been times when I've released footage when it's been good to release footage because it's like, hey, there's proof, and then people help. But then lately, this cast of characters in these cases, there is absolutely no way I'm going to let some of these people, be able to see that, because it puts the person in harm's way. So they'll be in that part of the neighborhood, knocking on people's doors, demanding things.
Yeah, I don't. And just to be clear, I think that's not the way to go about things.
Without a doubt.
I mean,
I don't agree with that mess either, but this guy is a bullshitter.
We've sat down and we've talked to parents of missing kids. We have talked to parents of murdered kids, and we've all. The goal is to be respectful about it. You start that conversation over in writing. You send them over something. You're like, hey, I'd like to talk to you about this. Would you be available? And that's how we ended up talking with Tommy Booth's parents. Yeah. Would never just go like, I can find where they live. I'm not just going to go knock on their door like, hey, can I ask you about your dead son?
Yeah. There's a level of respect that's necessary in these kinds of situations,
which is why we've avoided true crime for most of our content. Yeah. It just has such it so easily becomes drama content. That's not what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
So right before we get into, I think the vehicles question is good, because I definitely want to know about that as well. This footage you do have that shows this person. Are they walking? Is it like, are they walking along the street? Do they seem to be cutting through a backyard? Like,
they come down a street. When I say down, I don't want people are going to think I'm talking downhill.
Bullshitter.
So, they come one way on the street, and then they pause for a while, and then they go back the way they came from, and then unfortunately there's like some they're on the street on the along the edge of the street, walking along with it, but then there's like some trees that kind of and then you lose.
This guy is so full of shit. I can smell him through the YouTube verse.
And then there is other camera angles that but I can't see them. It's really frustrating. We don't see them again on any of the exits. So on the not exit, but on any of the reverse angles.
Yep, I'm getting a big whiff of your bowl, Steve.
And I mean, we have, myself and an analyst been going over this, and I mean, we have spent day and night over and over. I mean, it's really frustrating because it's just like poof, they're gone, you know?
Oh, there's another line out of the Stepfoot handbook. Hey, Steve, scripted much?
And we didn't even catch this person until maybe the fourth pass through. It's so faint, and we've enhanced it somewhere. It's a little bit more visible, but because there's actually another person that we've accounted for that's walking a dog, and so they're kind of like, you know, kind of had our focus on there. But it looks like, you know, but they're not with this person because we've talked to the other person. So.
Right. So. Yeah. I guess, you know, the next question there will be the vehicles. There was obviously this thing about 2 flashlights outside. There was a garbage truck. There was the fact that the camera had the wrong timestamp on it. Like all of these different issues with some of these cameras that showed vehicles. There was, I guess, an Uber that came through the neighborhood. There was a red car that people are like, well, why won't you release what you know about these individuals? I see where you're coming from with the, you know, well, I don't want to dox people thing. But at the same time, you know, did any of these vehicles that you saw, did any of them stop by the Proudfoot house? Did any of them linger in the neighborhood? Like, was there any suspicious activity?
No, they didn't. So, you know, the Uber, the only reason that I showed the Uber clearly, well, there's a couple reasons to show that. One, that it's been known about the Uber was there for a long time. And I think even the gentleman who got the Uber to go to the airport had put it on Facebook in the first day or two that he's like, oh, I had an Uber come at 3:30 in the morning. So that had been known.
That's not what Bobby the neighbor said, Steve. She said that the Uber driver was after the flashlight video.
So I was a neighbor. Not a neighbor. It was somebody in the neighborhood. You know, it was somebody on Kellen. So I wasn't afraid to put that out. However, the other vehicle, which I can listen. I know nobody wants to take my word for it, but I can promise you, the car is not foreign to the neighborhood. It's known, and they are not. That's not, you know, if that person, I know people would try to find out who that is and whatnot, and they go after them. And this person, quite honestly, this person probably has no idea that, you know, people are trying to figure out what car that is and stuff. And it has nothing to do with anything. Unfortunately, keep in mind, we won.
What in the hell is he babbling on and on about? Seriously.
To find the clue. So it's disappointing to us as well when none of these things are connecting, you know.
So you say that this vehicle is not foreign to the neighborhood. Are you then saying that the vehicle is commonly in the neighborhood but is not owned by someone in the neighborhood?
That'd be fair to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this?
It's, you know, think of it like.
Do you know who the owner? Do you know who the owner of the vehicle is?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. You were saying something. I don't want to cut you off.
Think of it as like, you know, there's daily, you know, like people that come in Ubers and stuff like that, or, you know, Amazon deliveries or whatever it may be. But you know, you have this, you have the same type of, you know, person for the neighborhood, you know, so it's a known person, but not necessarily a resident.
A delivery driver in the middle of the night? You have got to be kidding me.
So is this somebody with any known connection to the Proudfoot family?
No.
Okay. So not a family member, not a friend. All right. So I guess that's.
Yeah.
Is this somebody?
I mean, there's a construction site next door. There's a lot of work going on. And I know that it's a weird time of morning, but there's still, you know, things that there's still, you know, workers and whatnot. It's not a worker from the construction area. It's I don't want to say. It's hard to say. It's a person that is in that neighborhood, in and out, you know, several times a week, and it's a known person, and there's nothing, absolutely zero to it whatsoever. You know, nefarious.
So what exactly is your point, Steve? Because you're making absolutely no sense.
All right. So, I mean, is there, regarding the night, is there anything else you think is relevant to bring up?
I think
I know Seth said that the garbage truck issue was a non-issue as well.
Yeah.
Which part? Which issue?
He had said at some point that he's seen the full footage from that that, like, the full angle, not the zoomed in one that the news got. I basically said that, like, it's not, that car doesn't seem to have anything to do with the home that evening.
Okay, I'm really confused because I've never heard Seth say that ever. What I did hear Seth say is that he was shown the flashlight video at the police station and that they told him it was a trash truck. Once he figured out that was a lie, it became an issue again. The car in question and the trash truck are two totally separate instances.
So there's still confusion about, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know why So I don't believe. I think people might be confused about they're calling the lights video. Like, we put out an analysis on it that we did on it using AI and stuff, and I think that people might be confused of what I'm saying on that, because I think I'm agreeing with what they're saying. I don't believe that's a trash truck, and like law enforcement's insisting that's a trash truck. That's not a trash truck. And the light video is not a trash truck. So I'm not sure where they're getting that.
I don't think anybody's really confused about whether it was a trash truck or not. We definitely know it wasn't a trash truck. I honestly can't believe you're conceding one of my points.
There's some confusion because the timestamp was broke, as you said, it was stuck on that camera. So at like 3 something in the morning. People watch it again, watch the upper left corner when it pans across it, that you'll see it's not moving at all. So you got to just forget about that 3 a.m. for a minute, and be open to, it could be any time during night hours, right? And so with the owner, now we went and did some recreation tests. Two or three nights we did there. The owner was extremely gracious and let everybody on the property. And he said, and I'm gonna take them at their word. There's no reason not to. He said that, again, he didn't. This was an old school camera. It had its own server. He did not know how to export the footage. TBI actually physically took the server from him. And but he said that when they watched it, he knows it was about a little after 5 a.m. in the morning. The reason he knows it is because right after what we see, which is keep in mind, that's somebody using a cell phone to record the computer monitor while that's playing. He said right after that, where they cut off, the trash truck turns right onto Stafford and the frame. Well, we know that the trash truck was in front of the Proudfoot home at 5:12 a.m. And I disclosed that to kind of give people something to go off and say, listen, so if we're going to believe the owner of the house, then that's that's more the time frame, So
Steve wants us all to believe that the time frame of the flashlight video was sometime around 5 a.m. because the trash truck was in front of the Proudfoot's home at 5:12 a.m. I'm not buying it. I would rather believe Bobby the neighbor over Steve the liar. The math ain't mathin', Steve.
So I guess, well, then maybe I'm just misunderstanding, but then it sounds like it was the trash truck.
The lab. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Because I explained, I thought this is how we started talking first. So no. So the thing is that when we were doing those recreation tests, we had already done the analysis of the lights themselves based on that video. And that's basically just measuring every pixel and seeing, even though the person's recording it with a shaky hand, even if they're doing that, if there's like true mounted lights, like say on tail lights, they're going to stay the same distance from each other no matter what's going on. So we start, and that goes for whether it be vertical or horizontal. Well, what we found was that those were deviating. So those were 2 separate light sources.
So those are not one vehicle.
No, they're not. And so, and also the color temperature and the AI being able to actually determine a shape based on what pixels were being used or not, didn't match up with taillights. So what the AI was telling us is that one of them was just anchored, and the other was moving and was very likely a flashlight, which gave us a lot of hope that maybe that was Sebastian. And then it was just kind of like dumb luck. As we're doing this test, the cameras are rolling, and a light starts moving across the monitor, and it's a guy taking his trash down and his trash can down from an elevated driveway. And I was not there, but the rest of the people went and talked to him, and he said that morning that he had forgotten to take his trash out, and he had heard the trash trucks, and with a flashlight took his garbage can, wheeled it down to the curb. And so that, we believe, can't say for certain, we believe that's much more likely. That's probably what that light is. But I definitely do not, I know that that's not, they'll never come and say that was a trash truck for sure.
I have a really hard time believing that law enforcement knew that someone took their trash out at that time and used a flashlight and didn't just come out and publicly say that.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, I think that clears a lot up about that.
Yeah.
So, I think where I'd like to go next with this, because I think that covers most of the questions I had about that evening that aren't related to the things the Proudfoots have said and Seth Rogers. So one thing that I've heard a lot of, and I want to get your take on it, is I've heard a lot of people say, and some people have cited you as the source for this, that there are 2 hours where Seth Rogers can't be accounted for that evening. My understanding is that there's like 20 minutes where he was on break using the restroom or something that he's not on camera, but that for the most part of that night, his alibi is confirmed.
I've never said that about Seth. And in fact, I've heard that, but I've never even tried to check with his employer or anything to see if if there was a gap. I've heard this rumor of the gap in time, but I don't believe that, to be honest.
So as far as you're aware,
I'm not the source of that they'd never be able to get me, source me on that.
Okay, cool.
So you're a private investigator and you don't check out people's alibis? Are you serious?
So, like I said, my only goal here is setting the record straight.
No, I appreciate that you're asking the question so people know that like there's some stuff's been attributed to me. People just throw things out there, and it's not true. I've never ever said that Seth was unaccounted for.
All right, gotcha. So another Seth issue, something that I've heard you cited on, actually is with regards to him and Katie and how their relationship began. Obviously, there's this, I think, 9-year age gap between them.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Something along those lines. But, obviously, Katie's much younger. She had Sebastian when she was 19 maybe. So one thing that I've heard is that basically the allegation that for lack of a better term, Seth groomed her from the time that she was 12 or 13. And then there's even been these allegations that they were having an intimate relationship before she was 18. Obviously, that's a pretty huge allegation to make. So I guess my question there is that something that, would you say that their relationship began when she was a minor? And then if so, what's your evidence for that claim?
I'm not going to believe the lie that Seth is a Chester just because Katie won't come out and say that this happened. It's all speculation by SF.
Yes, I have said that, and I stand by that. And keep in mind, I speak with the source directly, you know what I mean? And I have no reason not to believe her.
I have a reason not to believe her because she's a known liar, and her family member came out and said that Seth asked for permission to marry her. So there's that.
Seth's also confirmed this. Seth, I've got a screenshot right here on my computer of him in T-Rev's chat saying that Sebastian was the first child they had that wasn't aborted, and and he'd spoken before about how there was 2 previous abortions, and there's no way to have 2 abortions and then have a baby or get pregnant at 18, and listen,
spoiler alert, SF never produces these receipts.
I don't want Sebastian to get lost again in this, right? But I will say that listen, there was a relationship before she was 18. That's just the long and short of it. And
so why doesn't Katie come out and say this herself? Oh, it's because she's lying and she doesn't want to come out publicly because even her and Chris know they're bad liars.
I don't know why he would go down that route because he knows that can be proven, but
prove it then, Steve.
I don't say about it. I don't want Sebastian to get lost in it. But if people just do the math just based on what he has said himself, it's pretty evident. Now, listen, it's people have dug into their backgrounds and they know that Katie has had a traumatic life, and so that might have been her best option, sadly enough, and I don't want to say anything more than that, but it's he's not the angel, you know what I mean? That people are saying, and Katie's getting run over, and it just breaks my heart sometimes because people don't understand that, or people I think do understand, but they just don't seem to care. A lot of them, the truth of the situation, and again, I don't think it needs to be about whether that right now. I think it needs to be about Sebastian and
with this bullshit about it being all about Sebastian. That's a lie. And you know it, Steve. I'm doing the math, and you're just trying to make Seth look bad.
Without being this, like, okay, only one set of the parents has got to be guilty, and the other isn't. I don't know why. Why can't we just find Sebastian first? Sebastian, whether he's alive or not alive, we'll tell the story of what happened, right? And so why do we have to convict the person now? Why do we have to? It's not our job, anyways, to build a case for law enforcement. We're talking about TBI and Sumner County and FBI with the help of FBI. We can't do better than them, right? So what we can do though is we can help find Sebastian, and hopefully, I wish we could keep it at that. I don't know why we got to because what if we're wrong? Like, what if
Walking in town.